Good afternoon, board members, staff, members of the audience. Let the record show that today is March the 12th. The time is 3 p.m. and we are going to call the budget workshop of the Amherst County Board of Supervisors to order. Also, for our minutes, let's note that Mr. Wade is not here today. However, he does plan to join us virtually by phone. All right, with that said, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Adams. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The agenda is approved. Mr. Pugh will lead us in the invocation, and I will then lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today humbly to ask you for guidance and wisdom and to protect those that are with us, as well as to protect our county employees, our sheriff's deputies, all those that are in harm's way each and every day. We ask that you be with us, guide us, and lead us into the paths in which you guide us. And in your name, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, board members, the goal for today is to give staff direction on where we're going to proceed on the budget. We will not be addressing the supplemental and anything other than our budget that's before us today. Staff will come to us at our next budget meeting with that. And so I think it's really important that we give them good guidance and be very direct in what we want in this budget, what we can't live without, and where we've got some wiggle room and to debate and to talk about. So with that said, Mr. Bryant, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Okay.
Oh, one more thing, and this will be an open format, so we'll just be very conversational here today. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. At our last meeting, we gave you really kind of the best projections we had, but a couple things have changed, and some really positive things have changed. One of the things that has changed for us is health insurance. In a little bit, Ms. Felix, our HR director, is going to present to you our health insurance options. We did receive a proposal from TLC, the local choice. We just received it on Monday. Staff worked over the last day or two frantically to try to work towards getting these charts updated for you today that we're going to present to you. And you'll see that we have some better options in terms of the county and the employees in terms of cost. I want to tell you that what we've given you now is updated revenue projections. Some of that has changed into the good. Ms. McBride can go over that later, as well as an operating budget that's in front of you. So with the operating budget that's in front of you, we heard at your last meeting that you wanted us to try to work in a 3% cost of living adjustment. And just for planning purposes, if we did no change to the employee health insurance, and that can change, and that's going to be part of our discussion. But if we built in a 3% cost of living adjustment and no change to the employee's health insurance, and the O&M budget that you're looking at the moment, we're at a $222,000 shortfall, okay? So that's really our goal today. That's one of our goals as staff, is trying to look towards and learn of ways that we could get to that. So we've given you a few options. We could probably work on a few more. The other thing that you asked us to do at our last meeting was for folks that had a budget that was more than the FY25 budget, was to come before you today and justify it. What we gave to you in your packet was justification sheets. It was 11 pages in your packet with their justifications, and they came here today to present to you as well at your request. So I would ask the first thing that we do is have Ms. Felix come up and present the health insurance options to you. Ms. McBride will talk about some of the money part of that as well. And then after that, I would ask you to bring up any departments and department heads that you have questions of that you would like to know more about their budget. Ms. Felix?
As Jeremy mentioned, Jeremy, Stacy, and I have worked with Pierce Group over the last couple of days to come up with some options to help you make this health insurance decision and hopefully mitigate the extremely high 33% increase in rates that we were given from Anthem for the FY 2026 plan year. All three scenarios that I'm going to give you have two options. One would be to retain Anthem Direct, and one would be to move to the local choice. All three options, or all of those options, have plan changes, which would mean moving from a $500 annual deductible to a $1,000 annual deductible. As you heard from Pierce Group when they were here last week, we have an extremely rich plan at this time. This was the plan design that was in place when I was hired. We had not changed the plan design in the entire time that I've been here. And so we would make that recommendation. The best time, if you're going to make plan changes, would be when you're considering moving to another vendor. It just makes more sense to do it at that time than to do it in the middle, of a experience with a single vendor. We also are, all of the options include lowering the HSA contribution by the employer from $2,000 to $1,500 per year. So those changes are already included in to help with the cost. The first option we're going to present would be no increase to employee cost. This will be, I'll explain it when we get to the TLC rates. There actually would be a change for some employees because TLC has no HMO. And so those employees that are currently on the HMO would have to move to the PPO, which would incur a cost because it's a much richer plan than the HMO. I thought we would start with the bottom line, which is the cost of these two options. And that the first, if we went to local choice, the additional cost from what you're paying now for health insurance would be $167,968. If we stayed with Anthem and did the Anthem renewal, it would be $625,553. So that's a difference of $457,585. So you can see the possibility of moving to local choice saves a substantial amount of money, and that's why we are considering it and making that recommendation. This shows you, if we stayed with Anthem, what would happen to the rates. So there would be no change on the PPO to the employee cost. The changes to the employer cost, ERs for employer. And you can see, just looking at the family plan, that's almost a $400 difference in an increased cost for the county per family plan. And then it shows you the rates for the high deductible health plan with the HSA and the rates for the HMO. If we stayed with Anthem, we would still be able to offer the HMO. The next slide shows you what we're paying currently for Anthem and what the change would be with the if we move to the local choice. And so I just want to make sure I didn't go down a slide. Yeah, sorry, I skipped. Stacey, I just want to double check. Were we going to change the rates with no change with TLC? Make sure this is the right slide.
Those are the right amounts.
Okay.
We added in.
Oh, the dental and vision, I'm sorry. I apologize for that. The reason you see a difference between the two rates is because the local choices includes dental and vision. So we added dental and vision to the local choice rates so that you could see what employees are currently paying for medical, dental, and vision. And so there would be no change in their out-of-pocket cost. And then this would be the change with the employer. As you can see, there's only a slight difference with each tier with this option. As I said, there is no HMO option, so this would mean that those employees who are currently on the HMO, and right now, employees and currently on the HMO, the employee only pays zero. We did that to encourage people to move to the HMO. They would have to start picking up a portion of this $90 per month. They're, already paying for dental and vision, so,
You've lost me there. So currently, they've got a standalone plan for vision and dental
yes,
that they're paying. All right, and the TLC,
it's included.
dental and vision's included, okay.
Yes.
Okay, let's make sure I understood you right.
So the next option would be a 5% increase to employee cost. Once again, that's not entirely correct because of the HMO going away with the TLC change. This cost, if you went with the 5%, would incur an increased cost from what we currently pay for insurance of $132,064 for the local choice, or $562,065 for the Anthem renewal. That's a total difference of $430,001.
Let's talk a minute about the HSA. Does the
Okay.
county fund any of the HSA, or is that all employee funded?
We currently contribute $2,000 per year. It's done on a monthly basis, so it's divided by 12. We are recommending that it go down to $1,500.
Okay.
So if you look at the rates, you can see the difference. Employees where they previously, with Anthem, would have paid $67 a month on employee only, now they would pay $71 for the PPO. The big difference, of course, is going to be in family. That's a difference of about $350, $360 for the family plan for the PPO. And then you can see the differences with the other premiums. And then with TLC, the difference is, not nearly as much. By having the employees pick up 5% of the increase, your family cost for the employer actually goes down with the TLC change on the PPO. And then, like I say, once again, those HMO employees would have to switch over to the PPO. So they would be picking up some of this cost that they're not paying now. And then the third option would be to increase employee premiums approximately 10%. Once again, the HSA contribution by the employer would go down to $1,500. And the cost to that would be $95,392 for the local choice, or $4,098,213 for the Anthem renewal. The difference is $402,821. And so if you look at the rates, the difference between the current Anthem rates and the Anthem renewal is still substantial. You're still looking at about $330 in the family plan on the PPO, for example. It's even higher with the HSA. It's a difference of almost $700 for the family plan, and also a large difference on the HMO. And then on the TLC rates, as you can see, an employee would then pay $99 for the PPO. A current PPO participant is paying $67, so that would be a difference of, $32 a month. And then, once again, because of raising the employee share, the employer's family share goes down about $450, $460 there. Once again, no HMO on the TLC choice. Those people would have to move over and pay a portion of this rate more than what they're already paying for dental and vision. Before Stacy explains the next slides, because she's going to look at how this would impact an average employee, frontline employee, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about, with TLC, the things that are difficult with TLC, to be tactful about it. I do think that we should consider this TLC option. It saves the county about $400,000. But with TLC, we can, and this is the reason we left TLC before, we cannot get our pharmacy data or our mental health data. They pool that data, and they're not willing to split it out for us. We asked them for a cost to split it out when we left them, and they wanted to charge us $5,000 to do that. So we chose not to do that when we left them 5 years ago. The other problem with TLC is that we would, in order for employees to continue to have choice, which means that an employee could not choose medical but could choose dental and vision, we will have to offer a standalone dental plan. And at this point, because we have not asked Pierce Group to price it for us yet, we don't know what that price will be, and we also don't know if we would have the participation level to even do it, because vendors have a minimum participation level that you have to have. And so those are things, once you all make the decision, if you make the decision that we are going to move to TLC, then we would have our vendors look at that cost for us. It would be great if we could still maintain choice for the employees. But that would be a decision we would have to make once we found out if we can meet the participation levels and if we had choice or not. The other issue with TLC is that if you decide to leave later, we did confirm that we can do a one-year contract with them. We don't have to commit to multiple years, but if you decide to leave them, there can be a penalty. We did not have to pay a penalty 5 years ago because we had excellent experience at that time. That is not the case now. I can't say for sure that we would have to pay a penalty or even how much it would be, but there is that possibility. And
But you're talking about renewal, not for some reason stopping the plan in midterm. You're talking about renewal, right?
Right. If we left them at the end of a year,
Do they want to charge us a penalty if we didn't renew?
yes, they charge a penalty if you leave their pool.
And is that guaranteed, or is that, is it reviewed?
It's reviewed. It depends on our experience at the time and the experience of the pool. In other words, if we had a really bad year and they lost money, they're going to try to recoup some of that money when we leave.
Okay, so that's a good place for me to segue into that question. So that penalty is based on what? How do they determine that penalty number?
It's based on our experience with them up to the point of us departing, and it's based on the experience of the pool at the time that we leave. Like I say, we had really great experience, and the pool was doing really well when we left last time, so we ended up not receiving a penalty. They take 6 months after you leave to determine the penalty. So we kind of sat on pins and needles for 6 months last time and waiting to find out if we were going to have a penalty or not, and we did not receive a penalty.
So do you know of any information that has been obtained from other localities or any other subscribers to TLC?
I don't tonight, but I can certainly get an answer from Pierce Group.
'Cause I'd be curious to see what that penalty.
Yeah.
Because obviously I think that's one of the reasons we're in the position we're in right now. We haven't had a good year, right? So
That's correct.
hopefully we don't stay on this track, but none of us in this room can predict that, right?
Yes, we can. And our large claims, we have had significantly large claims for the last several years.
So, let me get this straight. So if we have a lot of claims, right? And then when it comes to renewal, if we've had a lot of claims, they're gonna jack the rates up, right?
It's not so much the number of claims as it's the amount of the
Amount.
claims,
That's
yes.
right. Okay, the amount. And when we get to renewal, that's gonna probably lead to an increase in the rates. And then if we decide to leave because the increase is so high, they're gonna charge us a penalty.
Yes, they're going to
Right.
charge us the penalty to leave the pool.
Okay.
They could.
They could, yes. And I will text David Charland as soon as I get back to my seat and see if I can get you an answer before the meeting's over. I can't guarantee it, but I'll try.
All right, so that's one of the reasons you listed. You also noted cannot get pharmacy or mental health data. Why is that important?
They
to us?
pool, well, it's important because pharmacy is one of your biggest cost leaders with your cost on health insurance. We are very lucky. All of our statistics right now are fantastic except for these large claims. If we had not had, one of the claims is $300,000. If we had not had these huge claims in the first few months of this plan, because we just moved to Anthem Direct July 1st, we would have been in great shape. All of our other experience looks great. But it is important to be able to monitor pharmacy because it is one of the things that pushes your rates. And mental health can also be high as far as costs go, although I think it's less significant than it used to be, just because they treat a lot of the mental health just like any other type of illness, where years ago, the cost for mental health care was much higher as a percentage basis, because it was considered specialty care.
Okay, and then you mentioned the dental plan. So does TLC not have a dental plan?
It's built in, so it's all one rate. You can't split it out. You can't just do dental or just do vision. So in other words, we have some employees say that may be on their spouse's health, their medical plan, but they get dental and vision through us. They would no longer be able to do that if you went to TLC unless they went onto the medical plan.
How many employees do we have like that?
I don't have that number yet. I have requested it, but I haven't received it yet. But I will try to get you that number or two.
Is TLC formerly Piedmont?
No.
No?
No, we left TLC and went to Piedmont. We were with them for 4 years. And then they decided to get out of the commercial market last year. And so we went to bid prior to our budget period last year and selected Anthem Direct through that bidding process. And we've been with Anthem Direct since July.
And Anthem doesn't have a penalty clause, right?
No, we just let them know we're not going to renew.
Okay.
The final drawback, in my opinion, with TLC is an administrative one. They have a electronic system that they require you to use called Cardinal that is very, very difficult to operate. And in order for us to continue to use our online benefit software that we use now, that we just love, and that's easy and lets us electronically onboard someone and all those great things, we're going to have to dual entry if we move to TLC. And I don't think that's a deal breaker, but I did want you all to be aware of that it's going to require more HR time to administer TLC.
You have some time?
Well, I was just going to ask Mr. Bryant, so your current budget is built upon what?
It's built on with no increase to employee health insurance. With TLC. Going with TLC.
It's built on TLC.
Correct, yes, sir.
So with TLC, we're looking at a 222,000 shortfall.
Correct, yes, sir.
Okay. Without it, we're looking at a 800
Correct.
some $1,000 shortfall. Yep, okay.
So, Ms. Felix, if I missed your initial slide, I apologize. I was over here calculating something else
Okay.
and not paying attention, so I admit that.
No problem.
Do we have a comparative analysis of the current Anthem plan versus what, was that in that slide in the
Yeah,
beginning?
I didn't, because the plans are exactly the
Oh,
same.
so the level of certain, that was the main thing. So
Yeah.
if we go to TLC, there's no change in service to our employees,
The only
correct?
change is that we will no longer have an HMO. We will only offer a PPO and a HSA. But the network is the same. We did check on that, and the benefit to the plan is the same. They're both Anthem plans.
And that's still with the $500 deductible?
No, we would go to a $1,000 deductible. That I did say, and it
okay.
was on the
And I
slides.
apologize.
No problem. We would go to a $1,000 deductible. Our deductible is very low right now.
So is that a topic of discussion? I mean, I know our employees don't want to hear it, but I mean, you know, deductibles are what they are. They're not pretty by any means, but if we raise the deductible, how that will affect the rates? If we, I mean, because 1,000 is still really low. right?
The next option with Anthem that we looked at was raising it to 1,500. That takes your office visits and your specialist visits from a copay to a co-insurance, which would be an 80-20 plan. So an employee would have to first meet that $1,500 deductible and then pay 20% of an office visit. I can tell you, even at my income level with no children, if I were to, and this, I should have said, this does not impact me in any way. I'm retiring June 30th, so the decisions you make are not going to make any difference with me. But even at my income level, if I were going to be here, if we went to that $1,500 plan, I would be hesitant to go to the doctor early on. And the problem with that is when you put something in place that causes that, then the employees end up in the emergency room because they put off going to the doctor, and then it becomes urgent and they go to the hospital, and then you really see your large claims.
So I'll just throw this out, board, you know, really, I mean, you listed 4 things that really were kind of reasons that we should think about not going to.
And I would still recommend the move just on the cost alone, but I just wanted you to be aware that they are drawbacks to TLC.
Drawbacks, that's a better word, okay. So it's, you can't get the pharmacy or mental health data, so you really can't track how much
Right.
is being paid out.
We might have to pay a penalty,
Might have to pay the penalty, you might have to have a standalone dental plan,
right? And it's difficult to administer.
and it's difficult to administer. So, I mean, to me, those aren't insurmountable things. And as long as the insurance is comparable to what we have now, I definitely don't want to balance our budget on the backs of our employees.
Right.
But it's kind of a no-brainer to me. I mean, we're already at a $220,000 shortfall. You add 600, that's almost $1 million.
Yes, yes, sir. And it breaks my heart to be at this point, especially at the end of my career, to come and have to give you this bad news, because we worked really hard to give our employees a really great benefit plan, and they're really happy with it right now. But the only way we could fund this would be to pass even more cost on to the employees, and I can't recommend that.
I'm not sure I'm willing to do that, so, okay.
If you don't have any more questions for me, I'll let Stacy go over the impact on our frontline employees.
Ms. Fields, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms. Tucker.
Yeah, I've just got one question. Maybe it's not, this might not be the time or you've got it coming up later. But let's just say if we are able to give our employees a 3% COLA. I mean, you know what that'll be for an average employee. What's the delta between that and if we pass 5% on of insurance premium to them? You see what I'm getting at? She's gonna address that, thank you.
That's what Stacy's going to do.
All right.
All right, so Ms. Fields, before you go, and I'm not sure between the three of you guys. So if Pierce Group is still going to be the administrator for this program, correct?
There are benefits consultants, so they help us with the administration, but HR administers.
Oh, so you administer the entire, so
Yes.
we don't get any, for lack of better words, back office support from them to help us with this, is that correct?
No, if we have a question we can't answer because of the scope of it, they provide answers for us.
Okay.
They negotiate with the companies when we're negotiating our contracts. They approach them for the renewal, they get the rates, they evaluate them for us and give us information.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
All right, so we had done this before last week, and we took an average salary of $50,000 to see how this would affect our employees. So under the TLC, this is pretty detailed, but I just wanted you to be able to see the math. I have the monthly premium, the annual cost, whether we do nothing and we leave it just like it is, what the employee is currently paying, the 5% increase and the 10% increase. Then I went down to the bottom, and this analyzes the cost increase for the employee. For example, if you're on employee only, and we did a 5% increase, that's $60 a year. So then, if you have $50,000 salary, the 3% COLA is $1,500. The last two columns, you can see exactly how much gross pay would be left for that average employee. Do you have any questions about that slide?
So they'd be more than whole.
Yes, they would be more than whole. And I can't guarantee that in an employee plus one or family, but I think, especially for the ones that have to come over to the PPO that were on the HMO, but this was the best overall example I could give you. Some of our frontline people do make less than $50,000, so if they have I did do $30,000 on paper, and it's still fine for an employee only. The employee plus one and family could get a little wonky. I can't guarantee it for everybody, but I think they're in a good place. The HSA, I did the same thing. Obviously not quite as much money, but they're also getting their HSA contribution.
So the more money you make, the less it hurts. So
Obviously, yes,
What's
that's
our
true.
lowest paid full-time county employee? Not who it is, money-wise.
Just barely under $30,000. There's a couple that are right at $30,000. Everybody else is above that. I went through not too long ago to find that lowest person. They would meet the employee only. They actually would meet the, I'd have to look at exactly where they are. Like if they're on the HMO or if they're on the PPO already. If they're on the PPO already, they would still be okay with up to the 10% increase, even for on the HSA high deductible plan. Oh, now how do I go backwards?
But even at that, it wouldn't be as much of a cost of living increase, but it wouldn't be a cut to their salary either.
Correct.
I did the math. I've just done rough math sitting here. So roughly, if it's a $30,000 a year employee, at a three, it's $900. So they're still, but I mean, that's when we're talking peanuts at that point in time as far as what they're gonna see in a raise. So, do you know, Ms. McBride, as far as that, how many number of employees are between that 30 and 50? And this is just for trivial purposes.
I do not. I can probably get it for you. I just didn't run that report
Okay,
yet.
that's
I'll
fine.
make a note to try to get you some brackets.
That's okay. That's
Okay.
I was just
I don't mind, but
curious.
what I wanted you to see is that I think that, yes, Mr. Adams, you are correct, that some of them, it might be peanuts, but they're not gonna go in the hole.
Correct, exactly.
That was really important for me to make sure of. And if you want any other information related to how this works out on anybody, and if any employee has a question, they're welcome to call me and we can walk through how it would affect them personally. But this was based on TLC. I didn't do anything with Anthem. It was just so large. I think when we built the budget last week, we actually built it on the $1,500 deductible plan because that's the only one we could get close with. And it still didn't get real close. So I think this was what we needed to look at.
And Mr. Bryan, I know you gave myself and Ms. Tucker before the rest of the guys got here the rough numbers. If we went on a 5% increase, that was equivalent to how much in the overall funds?
So for the county, 5% is an additional $35,904.
Okay.
If you went up 10% for the county, it's an additional $72,576.
But the 167,968, that's the cost to the county. That was the first number.
With no change to the employee
With
cost.
no change.
Well,
No,
let me, except for the ones on the HMO that have to go to the PPO.
all right, now is that with them paying 5% of it, or is that,
That would be them paying the same thing that your current PPO participants are paying, which is $90 a month.
all right, I'm confused. So there's
Yeah,
a
I am
cost
too.
to the employer, us, there's a cost to the employee.
Correct.
So this local choice, $167,968, which you said was in your budget. So that's an increase, right?
Correct.
Okay, so is that an increase with the employees still paying the 5%?
No.
Or is that,
But the employee's paying no additional.
so the way your budget is built right now, the employees are paying no additional cost, right? It's costing us $167,000, and that gives us a $222,000 shortfall.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that makes sense then.
But based on your math a moment ago, if, and I'm just hypothetically speaking, if we went to 10%, then it'd be the 222 minus the 72.
Yes.
Say that again, Chris, I'm sorry.
So right now, we're sitting at the 222 shortfall.
Uh-huh.
Based on those numbers in column 3, if we chose to go with a 10% to the employee, 10% increase to the employee, then you could take the 72,000 off of the 222.
150.
So we'd be back down to $150, yeah, roughly.
Okay, I'm getting you. So, I'm sorry, guys, but this is important. So right now, with no cost to the employee, it's $167,968.
Correct.
All right, if the employee pays 5%, how much of that comes off the 167?
35,
Well, you add to the county then pays an additional $35,000.
no, pay less.
Pay less,
Oh, if the employees pay 5%.
Yes.
Correct.
yeah.
Yes.
Minus 35,
You want to go read it down?
okay, at 5%, and then at 10%, it's like 70,
$72,576.
10%.
David
And then-
Charlin was able to respond to me about the question about penalties. He said the last group they had was twice our size, and their penalty was $400,000.
How much?
Yes. And he said, for a group our size, it could be in the ballpark of $250,000. But as I mentioned, once again, it depends on our experience. So that's a ballpark.
Which we can't predict.
At TLC,
Never heard.
I know they were concerned about it skyrocketing, the rate going up too much.
Well, but see, then I think they can still get you one way or the other.
Really have a rate cap.
Because-
They try to keep it under a certain
Right.
amount, but it's,
All right, so
it
Mr.
changes
Bryant,
from year to year, so.
Right, but, okay, well,
We gotta have one conversation, please.
if we pass 10% on to the employees, that takes 72,500 off of the 167.
yes,
Let's just use some round numbers, 72,000 off the 167, which leaves about $95,000, right?
Well, it takes it off of the, okay. It takes it off of this number. The number we're working off of is this 222,000.
Yeah, it
Eight
comes out,
63.
it comes out
the same way.
the 222, but right now, the 222 shortfall is with passing nothing on to the
Correct.
employees.
Yes, sir.
If we pass 5% on to the employees, it takes 35,000 off the 222.
Yes, sir.
If we pass 10%, it takes 72, whatever, 72,000 off the 222.
Yes.
But if we do the 10% pass on with the 3% COLA, they're not whole.
Yeah, well, they're still to the plus side.
Not that 30,000, not that 30,000.
Correct.
guy.
Some may not be. Most people will be, some may not.
It depends on what plan they're on. If they are the employee only, they will be fine all the way up through the 10%. 10% is $108 for the year.
Wait, I did the math.
I thought, yeah, you said that pretty much most of them would be whole. I mean, even the 30 grand.
Yes, sir. I would have to check for the particular plan for a particular person.
Yeah,
But at $900 on a $30,000, then your family plan,
And that is gross pay too.
that's
not-
gross pay.
Yeah,
but-
that's right.
But your $900 pay increase would still leave you $120
To the good.
to the good.
Right. Yeah, we're still to the plus side.
I got you.
All right, so Ms. Figgins, let's go, man, I hate getting in the weeds like this, but I think it's necessary. And you may not have his answer, but this may be what we need to talk to Dave about that as well.
And he did respond that there are 51 employees in the database right now that have no medical but have either dental, vision, or both.
That's a pretty good size number. On that penalty, because dealing with insurance on my business side, you're right, they don't want to lose money, right? Again, that's why we're in the situation we're in now. If we get hit with a penalty for leaving, that still doesn't keep them from raising the premiums on the TLC in the next year, correct?
Right.
Well, if
So
we-
it's a darned if you do, darned if you don't.
Right, if we leave them,
And we have a bad year.
Well, no, if we leave them, we're no longer their clients, so they couldn't raise our rates because they're we
But
would
what I'm
leave
saying is if we have another historical bad
Bad
year
year.
and go into renewal for next year, then TLC is gonna evaluate the track history for this year and potentially raise the premiums up for the year forthcoming.
Yes, yes, sir. The highest renewal they had this year was 18%. They came to us with a 16% quote.
It's interesting to me that if that 400,000 number you threw out, when you add it to the local choice, that's about 625,000, which would be the Anthem renewal, right? So you're kind of gambling that you're not gonna have a bad year again.
Right.
You either come up with the 400,000 now and renew with Anthem, or you pretty much send everybody to the gym and buy them broccoli, right? And hope you don't have to pay $400,000.
Well, and the high claims with TLC are treated differently than they are with Anthem Direct. So they throw out more of those high claims than Anthem Direct does, because they spread them across the pool. So, that was what Gray was trying to say last week, is that there are some protections for small groups like ours because of the pool.
So the family plan people, tell me about that. Family, it would be,
At $30,000, you would still have, it would be a $780 increase. I know you can't hear me. But their COLA would be $900.
Gross.
Gross, yes.
So now talking about that, Tommy, we probably need to think about that because they could very well, make sure I'm thinking about this right, that's gross. The net income for that, they could be in the negative because it's $780, that's real.
does
But
that come
it's
out before or
pre-tax.
after tax?
Huh?
It's
Pre-tax.
pre-tax.
Oh, so, okay.
We
okay,
have no employees who are not doing pre-tax on health insurance.
Okay.
And we don't have any control over what they claim that might force them into a negative at that point. That's why I wouldn't even go down that road.
Okay, all right.
Do you have any more questions on the slides for either one of us?
Board members, any more questions?
Can you guys send us this PowerPoint presentation, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
Just not today, just whenever, just where we can have all that comparative information.
Absolutely. You can do whatever you need to do.
Even though there's 51 people that get dental and vision but not medical, that number doesn't bother me. I mean, it's
No, I
something
agree.
that doesn't really bother me. This daggone penalty bothers the
Yes.
dickens out of me.
Because I feel like they, I mean, if, again, as Ms. Felix stated, how many years have we that we haven't had a good year? Were we on? Yeah, so that, I mean, that's not good. That's not worth betting on. So they're gonna get, I feel like we're gonna be guiding one way or the other.
But I feel like if we go with TLC, we are bound to TLC for more than 1 year, more than one term.
It's no perfect answer. I think we all can agree on this.
Well, yeah, because I mean, if you go with Anthem now, it's going to cost you $625,000 more dollars a year, right?
Yeah.
And that's because we had a lot of claims that paid out a lot of money, right? So that's just to renew with Anthem. If we go with local choice, you know, we're saving whatever it is, $400,000, right?
That's right.
And if we have a bad year, how often do we renew? Annually. So if you have a bad year, this coming fiscal year, I mean, they might increase it, that $400,000. I mean, we're saying, oh, well, we might have to pay a penalty, right? Well, where are we gonna go?
Well, I mean, you're right.
So,
Well, we're looking at a 33% increase because of our bad claims this year. So although it's not a penalty, it's an addition for the renewal that we're gonna have to pay.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is if we went with local choice, even if we had another bad year, we'd probably at least be to the good for that 1 year if they jacked it up.
Potentially, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's right. But, well, I don't know if this is the time to bring this up, but going back to our last meeting, I think and I'm not saying, please don't take this as this, I'm stating that y'all hadn't been proactive with this, but I think collectively between us and the group down the hall, we need to be more aggressive and starting early to see what we can do to join forces to see if it's beneficial for us to do that. We have got to start doing more cooperative stuff to save us money.
Yeah, we've started that process and we will look at it for next year.
I'm inclined to say that we go with TLC this year, cross our fingers, hope for the best. So if we take that as step one, does anybody here think that we should go with Anthem? Okay, let's just assume that we all agree on that. Step two, where are we on employers and on assessing
Well,
more to the employees?
In my opinion, Ms. Tucker, I think we need to continue to work through the rest of the budget process. Do we need, I mean, Mr. Bryan, Ms. McBride, is that,
We need to make a decision by next meeting.
all right, but what I'm saying is let's get through the rest of these numbers and see where we end up at,
I agree.
right? And
Okay.
then see if we need to go down that path of that 5 to 10%.
Because right now, we're at a $222,000 shortfall with no cost being passed on to the employee, right? So let's look at the rest of the budget and then go from there.
All right. Mr. Bryan, is Mr. Wade on the phone?
He is.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Wade, do you have any questions?
Nope. I think I'm in agreement with the TLC option.
Okay.
I'm leaning toward the 5 to 10%. But we can talk about that later.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Bryant.
Yes, ma'am. So you have before you, it was in your email, the justifications from the departments that your last meeting you asked department heads to come and explain if you had questions, that they're here. So I would suggest at your pleasure, please call any department up that you would like to question their operating budget.
Mr. Adams,
Yes, ma'am?
you got anybody would you like to start first?
Well, I'm not sure what everybody else's opinions are, but, you know, I know we have some staff in here. I don't want to keep them from, you know, I'm not sure if the CSA is in here. Did I see somebody from CSA come in? Maybe not. Okay, all right.
I can represent, I can.
Well, I'm just saying, what my point was, is something that's that small, we don't need to waste anybody's time on that, in my opinion, right? Maybe the best places to start is the two biggest ones. How does everybody feel about that?
Works for me.
So I guess, Chief
Alright,
Bean, tag, you're it.
Can I ask one question before we move into that? It's important to me. So,
Okay.
Mr. Bryant, if we look at last year's adopted budget, right? It was 61,000. Let me get these out.
61, 245.
245, 930, right?
Correct.
But then if we go to our revenue was 59 million 579. So was our budget not balanced last year?
I would have to go back and look. I had quickly put those revenues in for you today. It was balanced when we adopted it. I would have to go back and double check what's missing.
Is it not also because of the CIP and supplemental as we moved it from one side to the other?
They should offset, but I can't speak to that for sure right now. That's what the difference is in that one line. It's like $3 million less is because of the CIP. The difference between this year and last year is the biggest difference in the reduction is we don't have CIP and supplemental in here as of right now. But I can go back and double check and make sure what I left out.
And I think when I emailed you guys this morning, that's where I said I needed further clarification, because I'm sure you guys saw my email from last night inquiring about why we're almost $500,000 short in revenue for proposed 26 compared to adopted 25. Is that, I have to understand
Well, we
that.
sent that to you in that email that Mr. Bryant sent you. Last year, we had scored the CIP and the supplemental at the beginning and funded it with your general fund reserve that has to show up in your revenue to balance the expenditure. So if you take that out, which is the number I sent you or gave Mr. Bryant, hang on. I don't want to trust my brain for that one. When did I send it? Lord have mercy. Early. Sorry, it's been a busy morning. Let's see, where is it? Jeremy. Oh, there we go. No, that's not it. Oh, there it is. So without the CIP in there, the revenue for 2025 was 58,294, 291.
All right, say that again, 58 what?
294, 291, so we're actually to the good this year by 798, 540. Because we have not used any reserves yet. We haven't done anything with CIP. We're going to fix that.
Mr. Adams, this is what I was talking about earlier. This is
See,
this is the process that that was previously done. This is why I suggested with CIP and supplemental, I've suggested changing our process where we were using funds that were believed to be left over, and we'd use historical data to make projections, right? I've asked to propose changing that process. That's why I brought up at the last meeting, we start scoring CIP and supplemental later in the year, categorizing them later in the year, once we know what our leftover balances are with our O&M budgets.
But,
Mr. Martin, you were trying to say something, and you kept getting cut off.
No, I was getting ready to say something. I think I'm gonna bite my tongue right now, but anyway.
well, I may say it for you.
Okay, go, well, go ahead.
This is still bass backwards to me. I don't care if we wait till September. I don't care what month you put on it. So what you guys are telling me is the CIP cut line that we established for FY '25, we haven't gotten into hardly any of that. That's what you're telling me, correct? And used hardly any of those funds
What do you mean, for this year?
for what we're working in right now.
There's a lot of projects in progress right now, yes. We're working on it, but we haven't technically spent it all.
But we're
I can't
we're
take it out.
9 months into the fiscal year.
Yeah, and the other thing that bothers me, and I'm just gonna throw it out there for you, is if I remember correctly, I don't think the windows on the Parks and Rec building made it above the cut line, right? Last year.
Correct, they did.
Did it?
They did. And I
But you
brought-
brought it to us in some form of, let's pay for it out of our reserves, which is great, but then you probably shouldn't have sent it, right? But then the CIP you sent us for this year only has like 3 little things on it, okay? So it's kind of a bait and switch to me, is what it was.
May I explain?
You go right ahead, but that's the way I see
I
it.
brought the windows to you as an opportunity because the schools were doing mass bidding for all of the schools. So I looked, it was a cost opportunity to save money. Because when we went out to get quotes, it was about $200,000 to do just the windows at Monroe. Schools went out and put a big bid out for like 7 or 8 different schools. I asked them to add ours as an addendum. We saved about $100,000, about $90,000 to $100,000 by mass bidding. Okay, economies of scale. I brought it to you as a creative opportunity. Didn't say you had to do it. Said it was a creative opportunity, and I gave you a funding source if you wanted to. I thought it was creative staff work to bring you something that we know it's an asset that we want to fix. We know it's something that we need to take care of. It's a building that we have. And I brought it to you as a creative opportunity to save some money, and I brought you a funding source as an option.
Okay, I'll accept that,
Okay.
all right. But, and I don't want to take this off too far because we got to get into it. But if you look at your supplemental budget that you sent,
Yes,
and I
sir.
know you don't want to discuss it right now, this is what I'm talking about. We do it every year. You're talking about funding all these positions, and I know the school resource officers are, we got to look at that. $1 million in new positions. $1 million in new positions using basically supplemental money. And what I've been telling you guys every year, that if you want to create these new positions, they should be in this budget, right? Because next year, you've created the position, and it puts us in a spot where we got to figure out how to pay for it.
Mr. Martin, I wasn't going to recommend that we fund these this year. This was the list the department had sent to us. It was provided to you, ranked by our staff as what's most important. It's a recommendation of this is what our staff believes is the most important. This is what they're requesting. We haven't gotten to whether or not we recommend funding it. I'm not recommending funding any of it right now.
Okay.
Well, but the SROs, as he's pointed out,
Well,
right?
That's right. And we've talked about that last meeting. We brought that up. That's correct.
But that's in the supplemental budget.
That is right now. We also, it's the same, and I said that last meeting, it's the same problem that we had last year. We're waiting on grant funding that we won't know until later in the budget
Right,
process.
agreed, but, and I know historically this hasn't happened, however, we gotta treat it as it could happen. If these 7 positions that are on here for SROs, if they don't get grant funded, that number, those 2 numbers, which by my math is $537,000, correct? Yes. That number is not over in our O&M budget anywhere, correct?
That's right. So we either need to cut another 500,000, we wait like we did last year, Those are both options.
It's only the 6th. That 7th one is a new grant, and if they don't get it, they're not asking for it.
Okay, so we'll go with the $509,000.
Well, so the 134 is already funded in the operating budget as the match. We already have a line item for the match. So
So
you only need
we're
the
looking down the
grant
gun
money.
barrel of the 374 and some change.
Yes, sir. I just want
Because
to
I
make
mean,
it
I
a little
think
bit better
all
for
of
you.
us, it's one thing all of us, I think, can agree in this room, we're not gonna pull all the SROs out of the school. But
Are there any other new sheriff positions in his existing budget?
Mr. Ayers, I don't believe you have any, do you?
Okay,
We mentioned, I
so
think,
you're just trying to keep your existing employees? Correct. All right,
from a process standpoint, and Mr. Brown, I understand you're trying to play catch-up. As I told you to start with, and I want to make sure that I'm expressing it across the rest of the board members, I'm just not used to this process. If a department head submits a budget, their O&Ms, supplemental request, obviously supplementals and CIPs can be debated. That's what our job is to do, is to debate that stuff. But when we as a group agree on a budget, whether it be supplemental, CIP, and O&Ms, then it ought to be it ought to be chiseled in stone, right? Unless something catastrophic happens to where we know come July the 1st, based on our revenue projections and what else we've approved, that the money is going to be there to get through that next operating fiscal year to accomplish everything we have approved to accomplish. Now we're being reactive instead of proactive.
Well, we changed our process this year based on the feedback that you gave us last year, which was last year we were ranking CIPs and supplemental early. This year we changed it. We're giving you revenues as you ask and expenditures, which is what we're going over today. You ask us to do CIPs and supplementals later. I'm going further and saying, based on our really tight budget this year, and Mr. Martin, you asked me about supplementals and CIPs. I'm not recommending that we fund those. We don't have the funds to fund those right now. But we haven't ranked them yet. And so I told you last meeting, I think my recommendation is that we try to rank them in September when we know what our actuals are, instead of the guessing game that we've done for the past 5 years.
all right, I'm gonna say this. All right. First, Mr. Bryant, I'm gonna apologize to you for the schools, because you're absolutely right. I was wrong about that, okay? I apologize. Now, for the rest of the conversation, I think we probably ought to tone it down a little bit, because it seems like it's getting a little heated, and I probably helped with that. So, let's get to work.
I'm with you. You took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, last year, I thought we had one of the best budget processes we'd ever had. I was very, very pleased with it. And Mr. Adams, I know that this is your first year with us doing it this way, and it's certainly
That's the
different than the
second
way
year.
we did it back when you were here the first time. Vastly different from the way Lynchburg did
Yeah, I
it.
was here last year.
That's right.
excuse me,
Um,
Mr. Martin.
So, but anyway, now, we're now into this for an hour, and we haven't done anything but except for decide that we're gonna go with TLC, maybe.
I wanted to let you know, I figured out what was wrong with the budget.
Okay.
I fixed the payroll in all the departments with the COLA, and I forgot to take it out of the non-departmental side, so it's double counted. So I need to fix that for you all. I apologize, I just didn't catch that.
I have a question, because there was a lot of contention regarding the positions, the SRO grants. So when will that be known that you actually get the grant? That'll be after they pass their budget in Richmond, right? Or once they
governor
finalize it?
signs.
Say May or June is what
Okay, so to me, what you all did makes sense to me, because we can sit here and say we're gonna fund it, then we're gonna have to adjust our tax rate based upon that additional $600,000, whatever the cost was. And you're using, well, let's see whether we get those grants or not, and then if we had to, we would probably have to pull that money out of a reserve. But next year going forward, we would know that those grants aren't available and we could adjust. Now, so I don't have a problem with the way that's been operating. Otherwise, we create a budget where we didn't need to raise those taxes on the families in Amherst County because we received the grant. And there's no way, once we set the tax rate, and the tax bills go out, we can't recoup, we could, I guess, next year recoup the money, but I don't think that's feasible. So I agree with the way you did it. I don't have a problem with that. It's specifically regarding the SRO grant funds.
So is there a potential they'll be grant funded again or not?
Yes, that's what I've stated earlier today in the email.
I got you. Okay.
They're only funding continuation grants, and ours are continuation grants. They're not funding new ones. So we've had them for 3 years. I expect we'll get them again.
Sheriff, have you heard anything from Mr. Jones or John about the probability of likelihood of this happening?
Absolutely none, Madam Chair. I've heard nothing about, the worry always, the root of these funds obviously are federal funds that are dispersed to the state to be allocated to the jurisdictions, but I have thus far heard absolutely nothing about these funds being terminated.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Sure.
Yeah, Sheriff, if you don't mind, since you're here and so you can get back to work if you need to, why don't you come on up here and talk to us about the justifications for your increases? Feel free to bring anybody up there with you.
Madam Chair, I thought you'd call Brad Beam. I was sitting back there and waiting on him. I said, well, he'll be on the chopping block first, but here I am. Ladies and gentlemen, first off, I want to thank you all for what you do. I know it's a tough year, and it's some difficult decisions to make. This really is our first year of trying to get back into the budget, where we've pretty much had a year to figure out where things were. And there's several areas that we had asked for increase. One of them, I'll just go down, as you all have the letter that we sent, part-time deputies. We are utilizing part-time deputies, courthouse. Just this week, since the weather started getting nicer, our inmate workforce, we use part-time officers to do that. We've been at the ball field, Lakeview this week, working on that. Actually used one of the part-time guys we use in the courthouse to work with the inmates doing that. So the inmate workforce had been pretty minimal over the last few years. It's my desire to get it back up to where we were several years ago out doing county projects and try to clean up a lot of areas that obviously need it. That is my request there for the part-time money of $25,000. One of the biggest things is to provide the additional support there for the inmate workforce and the courts. Our mental health transports and TDOs, ECOs, all of that has significantly increased. And again, that's done with courthouse staff doing the transport of these folks that find themselves in these situations. Any questions about that before I move to the next one?
Board members?
No, ma'am.
Auto repair line, we're significantly over in that now. I think we're well in the red in the current budget we're in auto repairs. Several reasons for that is when we filled vacancies that were present in the organization, we had to provide vehicles to put the guys and gals in. There were several vehicles that were on the lot, had been actually put there to be sold or done away with. We had to bring them back, get them in service, which were some significant repairs that had to be done to these vehicles. And that's why we have, where we are now is because of the significant repairs, in addition to just generalized, we all know what the cost of things are costing. I think Shauna had told me yesterday that one of our repair bills that come in from one of the repair shops this month was around $9,000. Normally that bill has been somewhere $4 or $5. So it's just a significant increase. We also have a fleet right now that has quite a few of Chrysler products, Dodge Durangos and some Chargers in it. I've never been fond of the Chrysler products because of things that we're experiencing now, 60 or 70,000 miles, significant repair bills on them. We have one Durango's got 70,000 miles. It's been in the shop the last month. I think now it's its third time with oil and coolant mixing together. and trying to figure out what it is. Reading about some of these, a lot of it is now requiring engine replacements in these cars, which is a significant cost. Thus far, we haven't had to do that, but just the significant increase in cost to keep these Chrysler products, and most of them are in that mileage where we'll probably keep them in service at least another 2 years. So hopefully we'll get it back to where GM and Ford has been what I have tried to always keep in the fleet. Those have seemed to give us the best of service, and we've just got to work with what we've got, and it's just costly to keep them going. Any other questions on auto repair line?
Well, so going back, because I know you've got a year under your belt now, do you have enough vehicles that you need? Do you have the right number of vehicles? It's just that they're in poor service? Or do you need more vehicles because you've got more employees?
Ms. Tucker, I had talked to Ms. McBride when we submitted our budget, and we have taken one vehicle and one upfit out of the budget to try to lower some cost in the request. We will make it one way or the other. We have to. So, we'll work with what we've got, and one of the vehicles was one of the drug guys need to be replaced, and we're going to look at using other alternative fundings to replace that vehicle. So we're fine with what the requests are. We're fine with what we've asked for in vehicle. We'll make it work.
So Sheriff, with that number I saw, I think between you guys and Ms. McBride, y'all agreed to lower it by like $75,000, $80,000, if I remember correct.
The cost of a car.
Is that equivalent to about five cars?
What was submitted was for the total amount.
What you ended up submitting was for the total.
No,
amount.
what came to me from you all was for the 380,000. Yeah, you added that back in.
Okay, I added it back in. Okay. Shauna added it back in once the request came back to us.
Can you take it out?
If we need to, what is that request now? Was it number 5 or 6? Yes,
5.
yes.
5,000 or 5?
No, 5.
Five vehicles.
Oh, so you've got a request in here for 5 vehicles?
Yes, yes.
Normally, that's what's been in the line, but the outfitting of them has gone up a lot, and so
Significantly.
this is what equals for 5 vehicles for them now is $380,000. We had taken one out at $76,000 originally, but when
And
you
that
came
was
back with the
vehicle and
flat
up-
budget, they added it back in.
Vehicle and upfit cost.
So where is that on here?
It's on page 43, Mr. Martin. Actually 44. So and I'm assuming we're under line item 8011, correct, Ms. McBride?
Yes, sir.
So it's
Motor vehicles, okay.
Those county admin recommends 304, and the department request was 380. So the 380 would give you 5,
Yes, sir.
and 304 would give you 4.
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
Put that in the parking lot.
And we did, I believe, help you earlier as you come on board with you had even more vehicle problems earlier on when you first come on board. I believe we appropriated about $200,000
Yes, sir,
earlier
you're right.
on.
You're correct. We did do that.
I'm correct?
Mhm.
Okay, I thought there was something like that.
But
But
Sheriff-
that was to take care of some issues that you had when you first came.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But Sheriff, were you telling me you didn't think any new vehicles were in your budget?
No, I knew during discussions what we had initially submitted, Ms. McBride and myself had discussed, and to reduce when she was trying to pull numbers, you all had asked her to go back and try to downsize and make numbers tighter. She had called and talked to me, and she had backed one of them out of the initial, at what time, I can't tell you. She had backed one of them, and we were in agreement with that at that time. And then when you all asked to resubmit the budget as flatline, that's when we went back and submitted it
I
flatline.
know you guys put a lot of miles on those vehicles, right? And they're
Yes, sir.
going up
They
and
take a
over
beating.
all day and night. or yet, if we're buying 4 new vehicles, I mean, logically, should some of your maintenance costs come down instead of go up?
Should and hopefully.
I'm looking for money.
I understand that. And Mr. Martin, I wish I can give it to you, but with these Chrysler products, and we've got quite a few of them in service, I don't know what's going to happen. I know what we've experienced over the last several months with them, and it's been costly, significant cost. I wish I could give you a projection, but I can't.
All right, so, okay.
But I can tell you right now, that the budget that we're working at, it's done. Vehicle repair line is now in the red.
Oh, I see that.
So Sheriff,
We still got several months to go.
what's y'all's normal replacement cycle on a car?
About 120, 30,000.
And that equates to how many years?
Average probably 3.5, 4. That'd probably be right, 3.5, 4.
Okay. And do you guys do anything to like, I know some of them are specific to a task, but do you do anything to,
Yes.
for like
When
an
they-
SRO that don't put as many on it to cycle
Absolutely. We
things
try
out?
to, as the mileage gets up on them, Mr. Adams, we try to move them to the courts for transport or the SROs to get it, to keep the, the newer cars where the guys are on. Yes, sir, absolutely. We move them, if we can get a few more miles out of them, but they're giving us a lot of problems, we'll move them to the courts or SROs or somewhere to get them out of the fleet where they're not constantly nickel and diming us to death.
So, this just came a thought to me. We had hired somebody to pick trash up last year, somebody to coordinate. What is the stat?
Are you talking about with the Route 29 business beautification?
Was that what it was for? I remember we hired a part-time person or somebody.
Yes, sir, that was a couple years ago.
All right, how's that going? I mean, I was just thinking, I know the sheriff does a great job. He's looking for sheriff's deputies part-time people to help with his work crew. And I didn't know, I haven't heard much about that position or what that position was
They
doing.
still do that. Our grounds crew, we've added additional, properties for them to maintain. The Kilgore property, they just bush hog it a
So
couple
that's went
times a
into our
year.
ground crew for Public Works, basically?
Public Works manages that position, yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
So Sheriff, instead of going through all of them, the only, if it's okay with you, Madam Chair, really the only questions I have is, tell me about janitorial service contract, because I have seen this in everybody's budget. Are you guys separate from?
We have a gentleman that's been cleaning that building, those facilities for, I don't know how long Ronnie has been there, well before I retired. When I came back, probably 6 months or so into me coming back, he came to me one day and he said, "Boss, I've got to have some more money." He said, "I've not had any increase since you've been gone." That was 8 years. He had not asked for any additional, had not gotten any increase in his janitorial service line at all. At that time, we looked at where he was then, how he, and that's where that has come from is, Mr. Martin he had been with us, and our building is a little bit unique in itself that, if we use service companies, you've got different people coming in and out of that building at all times in every aspect, and I'm not comfortable with it because of evidence and what's in that building and what an individual has exposure to when they go throughout. So that's where he had worked 8 years and had not asked or gotten one increase whatsoever over the 8 years. I will also add, since that time, and I have spoken with you, he is now cleaning the upstairs of you all's building at the fire department to maintain the jurors. He's been there today cleaning and scrubbing floors up there. He's not asked for one additional dime to do that.
Well,
So,
we appreciate that.
so, this man, he does, he has done, and that's how this, because I had no idea, and I said, "You have not received it since I've been gone." He said, "I have had no pay increases at all." in
I will
8
help
years.
you out with this one, but I'm gonna need you to help me out with another one. So, Ms. McBride, that $30,000 employee, by the time we do all the benefits package, it's probably right up there around the 40.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good enough. Tell me about association memberships up from 12,350 to 48,000. says from budget instead of fine revenues.
Okay.
Go back to fine revenues.
The issue that I have with that, Mr. Martin, that had always been a budgetary item. How it got into fine revenue, I can't speak, don't have any idea. That's neither here nor there. That is an operational day-to-day cost. That is the dues that are paid to the Criminal Justice Academy for the men and women to maintain their certifications. We have to pay it every year on every individual that's there. How it got moved to a line of anticipatory revenue, don't know, can't answer, but however, that is a cost that we have to pay. The $4,100 of ESA dues, yes, we can find that and deal with that. However, I cannot and do not understand how this certification dues got moved into a fine revenue because it is operational cost each and every day. And that's where that came from. I don't know.
I understand.
Yep.
But that's the way it's been, and we're in a really tight budget this year. I mean, could we leave it alone and maybe try and fix it next year? I mean, you're getting the money, right? Have you had any problems
As far
getting the
as-
fine and revenue money to pay for it?
As far as our fine, no, our fine revenues have increased.
Well, yeah, but I mean, so the dues are getting paid.
But in the event that something were just like right now, one of my traffic guys, I've had to put them on a shift. So that reduces that anticipatory revenue by half. You know, I can do whatever you all ask me to do as far as, you know, but I'm not comfortable doing something that is needed, being funded out of an anticipatory revenue line when it is something that, you know, and
Sending your people to the academy, to me, that's the cost of doing business. I mean, they gotta
it's
go
no
through that
choice.
before
They
can
have,
work
you
with
have to pay it, they have to maintain their certifications, and when I realized it was not in the budget anymore, that was a question I had. I mean, it's part of day-to-day operations. You don't have a choice in that matter.
I'm not questioning the.
Yep,
it
I
at
understand.
all. I'm just saying we're in a very tight budget, and that's like $26,000 that was added in. Not that it's not an important thing, but it's kind of a principle thing that it should be in there, and I agree with you, but, you know, I kind of see where this is going. To me, it's gonna, yeah. Anyway,
do you
I'm
mean?
just looking for ideas.
I understand where you come from, Mr. Martin, but I think with some of the discussions you and I have had, I mean, this is truly an operating budget line item that I don't think should be contingent on fine revenue funds. I think that's one we can maybe put an asterisk by to come back and visit if we get to that point. But
Oh, that's what I'm doing.
at some point in time, I think we're going, you know,
Mr.
inevitably, I think it needs to go into the O&Ms solidly.
And
What?
I have always tried to use, and when the inception of the fine revenue program was for equipment and whatnot, we have got to purchase mowers. Walk behind bush hogs, the equipment there, and that's, you know, the tasers, we've did that on a 5-year plan, just getting ready to purchase the rifles so that all the men and women have a uniform that, and then we've got to get some workforce equipment. What we have left is next to nothing. So that is a significant amount of, and I would not come before this board. That has been the use of these fine revenues is to buy this equipment and mowers and some pretty costly equipment that we're looking at over the next month or so to purchase. And, you know, and I have never, if there's ever been a time that the county has needed money, I think you'll go back and look at some years past when a bonus was given and there was money there in that line. I have never objected if there was funding there to assist the county with whatever may happen. I think that was over $400,000 in that particular time, and I would never do that. But I'm between a rock and a hard spot just like you are now when it comes to equipment and what I'm having to upgrade and replace and do. And that's where I look to get that money from, and not stand before you all every few months. I need this, and we got to have this, and whatever. But yet everything that we request or comes out of that line does come before you all for the approval and rightfully should. But I just, to take something that is a have to, you don't have any choice to pay these dues. I've got some reservations about that being an anticipatory line to be, where that's to be paid, and how it got there, I don't know, but it's neither here nor there.
Sheriff, I'm not looking for a problem here, but where are we on those radios and stuff? I know that you and your folks have looked into all these radios and new body cams and all that stuff. Is not gonna get pushed off for another year?
That is in a different, Ms. McBride, you help me with as far
That'll
as
be
the
under
cameras.
supplemental,
Cameras are in your CIP, aren't they?
huh?
They're in the
CIP,
They're
Okay.
in the CIP.
yep.
Board members?
Yeah,
Mr.
just a question, just some clarification. It talks about the VSA dues. What,
That's about $4,100, and I have no problem that. It is for Virginia Sheriff's Association dues that give the benefits to the men. And Mr. Pugh, I have no problem. It's about $4,100 of that. But the biggest part of it is about $33,000 for the academy dues for the men and women. That's a significant one.
it says here, the VS, they're not mandated, but they do provide state bid contracts on vehicles. You utilize that for
That's
the
where we
state
get
bid
it. Absolutely.
contracts?
Yes, sir. We use the VSA to get the pricing on the vehicles. Yes, sir.
As well as legislation assistance?
Yep. And I'm fine. We will take that out of the fine revenues, but those academy dues need to be on a solid foundation because that is a have-to must.
Yeah, that's not a whole lot, though. You know, I don't know if it's the value of $4,000 is worth pulling that out of there, and
That's,
So is there anything in your budget that you could fund out of fine revenues? I understand you feel very strongly about this. I understand that, but. Can you just look at it and come back, well, I mean, I know, put you on the spot.
electrical is what it is. I mean, that's the last thing. We know what electrical costs are. That's, the equipment rental for the office equipment. I mean, that's about $3,200 additional request as far as the copy machines and the least. Our FOIA request, ladies and gentlemen, is absolutely, I don't know what we're gonna do to maintain all the FOIA requests we're getting, but we've got to do what we've got to do, the copies. And this morning, one of the staff members for probably a couple hours was making copies of files and stuff that had been requested under FOIA. It's that we have to fulfill those when we get them. If it's applicable, we have to fulfill them. I mean, it's minimal. And, the upfit cost to motor vehicle, that's a significant number. That had previously been in the budget. Why it was taken out, again, I don't know. And, this year, of course, numbers are probably a little bit up based on what we had to do last year, but, just what it costs to pull the equipment out of these vehicles, replace equipment, and put it back in new vehicles, it's
Let
It's
me
tough.
ask it this way, Sheriff. So what do you project the revenue from fines and fines to be next fiscal year?
I'll refer to Ms. Mates. What would you say probably a monthly average is now? Is
About 30,000.
somewhere about 30,000.
About 30,000,
Yes, sir. Take that over 12 months, you're
12.
looking at 360.
360.
$360,000.
Yes, sir.
And a portion of that goes to Parks and Rec, right? How much goes to them?
20%.
So 20%, so let's just call it $300,000. Do you have plans for that $300,000?
That's the replacement of equipment, like I was telling you, mowers, bush hogs, replacement weed eaters, chainsaws. That's one of the biggest things that comes out of that fine revenue is equipment. Taser payments is coming out of that. Rifles is coming, that's coming out of that. That's what we have utilized that funds for, to keep from coming before you during mid-budget years when we need to replace equipment. And like I said, we have got to make some pretty significant purchases here in the very, very near future as far as walk-behind bush hogs and mowers.
Jeremy, do we have any duplication between what he just mentioned in the sheriff's department and what we've got in public works?
In terms of mowing,
Yeah.
not really. I think we coordinate. There was some duplication at the courthouse at one time, but we've covered that. Mr. Ayers, do you know of any duplication?
I don't. I mean, I know that the Public Works, they cutting the grass and, what they've been doing. And actually, the town has called and requested us to start cutting the firing range and some of the properties down there. So here we go with that. But anyway, as far as working with Public Works, I mean, they are helping us today on a project. As far as with skid steer and the heavy equipment that we obviously don't have and wouldn't have. But, as far as mowers, weed eaters and stuff the inmates use to clean up, we've never shared that equipment.
At your
Yeah,
level
oh,
and
yeah,
at the
yeah. 'Cause
annual
we-
ground maintenance level, they don't last but about, my understanding is like 2 or 3 years max.
Did you at one time fund a road deputy with some of that money or overtime or something?
And overtime is paid out of that money too. I failed to realize that overtime is paid out of that fine revenue money. Yes, sir.
The deputy no longer is.
But the
Because
We've
overtime,
worked it into
overtime
the
enforcement
budget
and,
over the time because of,
Yeah, I thought
You're
a
not
road
gonna let
deputy
'em
had
go
been
if they-
funded out of that at one
yeah,
time.
we do
Oh.
pay the
Yeah, y'all answered my question. I just want to make sure we didn't have
Right.
that
Yes.
Brian Thacker didn't have a bush hog over there in Public Works and you had to go buy a bush hog and,
no, I think they do.
Public Works has mowers and whatnot, but a lot of this stuff we cut along the side of the road, the walk-behind bush hogs, and they've got the ones on tractors and whatever. We can't put the inmates on those, so we use the walk-behind bush hogs and a lot of the walk-behind large commercial mowers to cut what we cut, so.
So, Mr. Bryant, speaking of, because I remember back from your previous tenure, as far as what we were getting out of the inmate workforce was instrumental in keeping our properties looking nice, also because of your OCD. I think I can safely accuse you of that. We're much in the same boat with that, but between that and the other thing, I'm kind of getting off on a little bit of soapbox, but as you ride the county roads right now, they're absolutely horrific as far as litter goes. We need to figure out how we can get back to that program because obviously we're not getting the support from VDOT that we need, and that aggravates the crap out of me. But anyway, I'm gonna leave that alone. Now, getting to the 29 corridor coming into the county, where the mowing is done, those contracting services are they paid by us or paid by VDOT?
Route 29 business,
Okay.
all that's VDOT.
All right, I just want to make sure we
mowing,
didn't have
the
any
mowing,
duplication
correct,
there.
no,
Okay, fair enough.
You guys got any other questions for the sheriff?
No.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I
All right.
think, well, Mr. Martin, I think we just need for our point, not so much for you, Sheriff, we're good, but for the numbers go with what that 222 shortfall, even though the sheriff came back on that vehicle line for 5 vehicles, our numbers are still based on the 4, correct, with the 222 shortfall?
Yes, I just realized that did not get in there correctly either.
That's 4, it's 4.
It's 4 in there.
It's 4, not 5.
All
So
right.
that was a point of discussion. I just want to make sure that was
That's fine.
there for clarification.
So right now, we're at 222. If we pass 5% on to the employees, that drops down to like 190 some
Yes, sir.
thousand, right?
Yes, sir.
I know where you're going, Chris, and I probably agree with you, although I don't want to agree with you. How How much is in our reserve for contingencies right now, or reserve fund?
The general fund?
Yeah, just reserves.
Give me just a second.
While she's looking, where did you think I was going? Because I want to make sure I'm on the same page.
Well, he recommended it.
You mean for the 5th?
We're doing a little bit of mind reading up here.
That's scary.
Well, the ESC line item, which has a,
Oh, you talking about the 118?
yeah, which has a balance in it, right?
Yes.
So that's one place to get a large percentage of this, but if there was some kind of an emergency that they absolutely needed funding for,
They is in who?
the fire department, the emergency service council,
Okay.
whoever, we have a reserve fund that they could come and ask for it, right?
Correct.
Correct. It's estimated to be $330,000 at the end of this year, currently.
Yeah, I'm just saying if, no, I'm not saying it will, but just in some catastrophic failure where the 300,000 was gone, right? Not that it would.
Yes,
if
but
it did.
I was planning on, once Mr. Chief Beam come up here, we can have more discussions about that. I know you and I are going to debate that back and forth, but we can get to that then. But yes, so that 118, I think, in my opinion, this year is usable in some other capacity because we have managed those funds so well over the last several many years. And we can, I don't want to cross Chief Beam yeah, we can talk about this more once he comes up here. So I guess we need to make sure for Sheriff that he and us are on the same page as far as that 4th versus 5th vehicle. I mean, Sheriff, I mean, you think it's going to be critical if we keep it at 4?
Mr. Adams, the year that you all in, we'll make it work for 4 vehicles.
We really appreciate that, Sheriff. Thank you. You know, if that money tree comes to fruition, we'll come back to you. All right, Chief Beam, your ears burning.
Sheriff, this kid's a great job. I was gonna bring him with me, but can't get into buds. Good evening, Board. Thank you for letting us come before you again. As you all probably know, you'll probably see over the last week or so, we have gone back and we have trimmed very hard, probably about $100,000 out of this. We've used our numbers. Most of what you'll see here, and I'll answer specific questions, but most of all this is based on truly what we're calling our FY25 burn rate for fuel, vehicle repairs, that sort of thing. Some of our big increases that we're experiencing this year, one is that pharmacy, you know, last year was a big CIP project. Now we have unfunded federal mandate there. That we have to cover that cost. We've gone back, reanalyzed, and been able to cut $5,000 out of that based on our current usage rate. Some of the other unfunded mandates, we know our regional EMS council is going away. We've been told that we're going to be put in a different council, but that's potentially, we don't know what that's going to look like. The state is doing away with their reporting software that they had been paying for years. We're having to pick that up, along with our pediatric protocol apps that we use. So a lot of state unfunded mandates and federal unfunded mandates have hit us this year. But I'm happy to answer specific questions if.
Before we get into that, Sheriff, you're welcome to stay if you want to listen to this, but if not, I think that we've asked all the questions we need. You feel free to go if you need to.
Go write some tickets. We need the money.
So Chief, I know you have numerous budgets in here.
Yes, sir.
Is there one that you would prefer that we start with where we can all kind of be on the same page and navigate through?
I can hit a couple of them really quick, if you want to, some of the smaller ones, Mr. Adams. Emergency Service Council, we did have an increase in the insurance there, that was due to, some calculation stuff last year. But that's the same rate we've been paying, but it wasn't completely calculated in last year.
Which page was that on? Ms. McBride, do you have it?
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't.
Or do you have it, Mr.? The Emergency Services
Service
Council
Council.
budget?
39.
39. Figures.
They are in alphabetical order.
Is that the same as public, that ain't the same as public safety operations?
No, sir. It's a very small one, Emergency Service
All
Council.
right, the 39 is not it.
So that was all insurance.
Yeah, the only increase there was that,
Oh, okay.
Finch covered that insurance cost.
So I think it's important for us to note going forward, and I think we need some clarification, Chief, for that insurance cost. Do they give us, because that's still being administrated by Campbell, correct?
Yes, sir. The insurance itself for vehicles, buildings, that sort of thing is Campbell. We did switch over to VACORP last year for workers' comp for our volunteers. So workers' comp is administered by the same folks that administer it for county employees.
All right.
And so that total number is a combination of the two.
So again, I'm gonna get on the soapbox here for just a moment. So that vehicle insurance for the volunteers,
Yes, sir.
do they give us a breakdown per vehicle?
They do not, no, sir. It's just a total policy cost annually for renewal.
Well, you've heard me plenty of times, Mr. Martin, I've talked about it several many times, we need to make sure that we administer through our vehicle replacement cycle. We're not in a position to hoard fire trucks,
Yes, sir.
nor are we in a position that we need to hoard fire trucks. So if this board funds a new fire truck, then the departments need to be held accountable, and they need to relinquish a one-to-one.
Wait a minute, say that again. You lost me on the last part.
So if we're replacing a fire truck, right, we're replacing it for a reason, because that department has basically stated that they need that piece of apparatus. It's replacing another truck, right? We're not in a position where we're adding fleet.
Right.
So if we're purchasing something to replace an aged piece of equipment, that aged piece of equipment needs to go to where we're not maintaining it and we're not paying insurance on it.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. What you have happening is AFD, but you got other departments that county goes out, purchases $1 million truck to replace a truck that's aged out, right? Well, they don't get rid of the other one. Why did we replace it? And then we're still paying insurance on it. Makes no sense.
And maintaining it.
I mean, I know that you don't get a whole lot for them, but if you get a little bit of something, that's,
Well, right now, the used
At least it's not a
used
cost.
fire truck market is pretty daggone good. So I just want to make sure we note that, and we need to make sure that we give Chief Beam the authority to make sure that we hold these departments accountable, because that's directly affecting our budget.
is that something that,
Not
is that a
in the
policy
SOG.
change? How does it need to be
SOGs.
conveyed?
I think he just conveyed it. There was.
Yeah, and at last month's Emergency Service Council, to Mr. Adams' point, great point, we've told the departments as well, or asked them, if they're doing anything that's going to that the county's going to be required to put insurance on, we need to have a discussion before. So there are smaller things as well, like maybe a UTV or drones or things like that, that we just need to make sure we're having the conversation, understand what that cost benefit is that piece of equipment benefiting the county enough versus how much it's costing the county in insurance every year.
So I agree, but also on the sale of the vehicles and the proceeds and all of that, I'm sure you did this before. You've sold equipment that is aged out.
Well, so currently, that's a great point, sir. Currently, the county in recent years has started titling the vehicles, co-titling the vehicles with the volunteers. That was not done previously, so the vehicles that are aging out currently are still solely owned by those volunteer organizations, with the exception of one that's probably going to be coming up soon, which was actually the first one purchased by the county, I think in
2010.
2010. So I think one of our departments will be selling that piece of equipment very soon. But that's the first time that we've experienced anything that we've co-owned or what have you.
Okay, so if they sold it and it's titled in the volunteer fire department's name, then those proceeds would go to their.
Yes, sir. Because historically, they bought it versus when we're co-titling, we're either paying 100%, I say we, the taxpayers, you all gracious as the board, either 100% or some type of a balance.
So if it's one that's owned by the county and we sell it, will those proceeds go, I don't want it to go, it won't go to the general fund, will it go, is there a bucket of money that goes towards new vehicles?
So that's a great point. Typically, it goes to general fund. As you know, sometimes we'll come to you all and ask you to put those funds in a specific place, replacing a vehicle or something to that nature. But I think I'm speaking correctly. Traditionally, it just goes into the general fund unless you all decide to do different with it.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think we're getting way in the weeds, and I agree with
Yeah, I
Ms.
agree,
Adams.
I agree.
But I don't think the insurance on those couple vehicles is $225,000.
No, absolutely
No,
not.
sir. No, sir.
So we should definitely look at
Yes, sir.
doing that cost savings, but it's not $225,000.
Yes, sir.
So you're not getting a new ambulance or a command vehicle this year?
That is in the capital budgets that would be taken up at a later time, sir.
Okay. So it looks like you cut your budget pretty bare bones.
We did, sir. We did. I use rates based on how much we're spending for maintenance per month this year to extrapolate out. When I tell you we have tried to cut it to the dollar, we have literally tried to cut it to the dollar.
But the 118 is still in your budget, correct?
Yes, sir. We did not.
I still can't find that dadgum thing.
I'm sorry. Yes, sir. We did not touch that.
No, I just found it. Okay.
Or is it?
Page 22. So I think it's important to note, and Mr. Martin, you know this, if that's removed, that still does not take away the ATL money going to the fire departments. And that's 120, is that correct, Chief?
Yes, sir. That's
120 a year.
40,000 per department. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
How much?
It's 100.
$120,000 a year going to the fire department for ATL.
It's 40 each department.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
divided.
it's split 3 ways. Yes, sir.
I mean, I can't speak for the other departments, but I can tell you the fire departments aren't swimming in any funds.
No, sir. No.
At all.
No.
So, yeah.
Any other questions for Chief?
No.
Martin? Ms. Pugh, you good? No, ma'am, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. And again, the same sentiments as Sheriff Ayers. I know that it's a difficult year, so we appreciate you working with us. Thank you.
I would like to call next Ms. Hanson from the EDA. I had a couple questions there.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon. So you came to us with an increase of, I can't find you now.
16%.
How much?
16%, 30,000.
30,000.
Over 30,000, correct.
All right. And board members, I had talked to Ms. Hanson yesterday. The Shell building, because I just couldn't wrap my head around this. The Shell building, which is ready for a renter now, they had to put sprinkler system in that. To have a sprinkler system, you've got to have the temperature at a certain, the temperature's got to be maintained. And so they had budgeted $800 a month for electricity, and their December bill was $2,200 a month. And I said, well, how can it be off that much? Anyway, That's one of the reasons that they're asking for their increase. The second is that they've not had an operational increase, and now I want you to start talking. Since when?
Yes, so for 6 years, we had through all the hyperinflation from 2017, 2018 fiscal year to 23, 24 fiscal year, all that, everybody was getting COLAs. We, as an outside authority, did not get the COLAs that came in with the county. We were facing inflation in everything that we were doing. And so we had, in that 6 years, a 1.9% increase in our budget. So last year, we did a little bit of a true-up. We got an increase then. But it is truly the electrical that's really pushing us this year. When our great building went from 4.6 million project that started pre-pandemic, and then during the pandemic, the inflation went wild. We ended up going to 8 million. We were able to handle that cost just barely, but we are down to bare bones now. And with additional costs for electrical, as well as the Avalon Commerce Center, we pay for the lights on that so that there's additional electrical costs there. That's really where we are asking for additional because we don't have any money to make up for that electrical cost.
And I'll just give a personal commentary here. I'm a firm believer that we've got to put money in a place that makes us money. And so therefore, have been historically been supportive of our EDA. I think that where we are now with the people on that board, I think we're in such a good place, I don't think we could get any better as far as people that are on the board and bringing their expertise to this county. So I don't have any problem with their request. Board members, just want to make sure that we're all on the same page here.
Yeah,
Mr. Adams, I saw you.
Madam Chair?
I'm sorry, Mr. Wade, say it again.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I agree with you. I think, they're doing great work, and I have no problems with their request.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. I saw Mr. Adams shaking his head.
No, I'm in agreement. I had a chat with Ms. Hanson. She explained everything. I completely understand.
I just have a question regarding the building. How long has it been ready for a renter?
So we got control of the building, ownership, finished construction mid-December. And so we have been marketing it in every way that we can that doesn't cost a lot of money. We really thought after the elections, things would pick up. But unfortunately, with a lot of the economic indecision that's going on with businesses, the tariffs affect manufacturers very highly. And so I think until the tariffs and some of that economic uncertainty settles down, a lot of businesses are not ready to make a large either movement into a new building or capital outlay to actually purchase the building. But we are still doing everything we can. We occasionally get nibbles on it. We got one last week, but nobody who's, really serious about taking the building at this point. And we did plan for the debt service of the 1.25 million and a lot of it, but that electrical bill is just really the thing that's surprised us.
Yeah, ask anybody that pays their electrical bill.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, that's all.
All right,
Mark,
thank you
do you
so
have any
much for your
questions?
support.
Not for,
All right, thank you, Ms. Hanson, appreciate it.
is there anyone that can answer questions about the courts?
Which one?
Well, I'm looking at this on page 7.
Circuit
Compens-
Court?
Yep, compensation of jurors. They didn't have anything budgeted last year. They're requesting 10.5 this year. All right, increase in jurors for trials.
So
I
if
get
you
that.
look, I shared her write-up. She was unable to attend because of the docket that
No,
they
that's
have.
fine. I understand with all that.
Okay.
What I'm getting at is if you scroll on down to page 15,
Can you tell me who that is?
Criminal jurors.
criminal jurors.
Okay, hers, the ones in the circuit court are civil jurors.
So these are two different sets of jurors. We're not double budgeting for them.
I can double check that. I had many
Ms. Mazingo is kind of,
Will you come help me?
I would try.
And I try and help you.
Can you explain the jury committee and the jurors that are handled by the circuit court and the ones that are handled by you, the difference?
Okay, the criminal jurors, I've always asked myself the same question, and I asked Stacy, why aren't they combined? But civil has always been the judges. He pays those. That's his budget. Criminal cases come out of my budget. Civil, she also uses to pay for the questionnaires. That bill comes in if she orders, like, however many the judge wants to order to send out as questionnaires. I think that comes out of her budget.
Yeah,
But-
she noted that in her letter.
But
or
as far
email.
as civil jury trials, we do not have that many, as many as we do criminal. I can't answer that.
I mean, they're requesting $10,500, which is up from nothing. They've spent $2,100 so far as of 12/31. All I'm trying to get at is the money that's over in your budget, which is like $12,000.
Yes, sir, that's criminal.
So that's different than this. Okay. I
And
got it.
as far as answering why they're asking that amount, I can't.
That's fine.
I'm sorry, I wish I could,
My
but-
main thing was that we didn't have two budget lines for the same thing. It's
No,
different. Okay.
theirs is completely separate from mine, and I've never understood why all the jurors aren't combined for one, but it's always been that way. But my responsibility is criminal only.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, since we're talking legal stuff here, is there anyone here from Commonwealth's Attorney's Office? All right,
They didn't have an increase in their budget. so
I'm
we
sorry,
didn't-
what?
They did not have an increase in their,
Oh, because I'm looking here and it says,
he lowered a couple other things and it ended up he did not have an increase in his
but on
overall budget.
salaries and wages, is that going to stay the same as it was last year?
As of right now, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, what?
As of right now, yes, ma'am. It's 812 in the original budget for this year, and it's 812 in his county recommended.
But their actual, maybe I'm just dumb and I'm not reading this right. Because it says their actual on 2024, on the end of 24,
He's had a vacant position for about 6 months.
he's had a what?
He has a vacant position, right, he's currently
Since
trying
when?
to fill.
I mean, for how long?
I think it's been, August or July or August maybe, I'm not sure. I did ask him and he told me that he was working on filling it right now.
So he's going to keep that open position? The unfilled position?
Yes, ma'am.
As of last meeting, he reported that he filled it, or he was filling it.
He was working on filling it, yes. He had interviews scheduled, so I expect him to fill it.
But he's not asking for a new position?
No, ma'am.
Any questions about that? All right, that was, moving on. Anything else? What's next?
I really wanted to talk about DSS, but it's really not that much money, so.
Have a question that needs answering? We got,
But Mr. Miller was
We got a guy.
anxiously waiting.
I know, he was. It looks like travel meals and lodging you increased, travel
So
convention.
Robin and I did talk about that one.
But it's all listed as transporting children and clients. And then
What page is that, Mr. Martin?
18, starting at lines like 5503. Looks like you're purchasing a new vehicle.
We worked that into their budget. 2 years ago, I think.
Every year.
Well, we might not do it every year, we just want it in there in case we need it, and then we consistently trade it.
Can you come up, Mr. Nutter? I'm sorry. Just so you two can hear you.
That was, added as a line item. Last year, we usually would have to ask for a supplemental budget request every time we wanted one. So Stacy added into the budget. Doesn't mean we're gonna bond one every year. We just,
I get it.
Yeah.
I completely understand that, yet. $222,000, right? We're looking for it. If you don't need it this year, sure would be nice to have $35,000 of it.
Robin, how much is funded by the state?
While she's looking at that, Jason, have y'all purchased one in this current fiscal year? Do you think you're going to?
we were planning on it, but we were
Okay.
planning on trading at least one vehicle in, to offset the cost of it.
How many miles a year do you put on your vehicles?
I don't know, it's a lot.
How many do you have in your fleet?
We have 10.
10?
And of those 10, only 3 of them are like 2021 and newer. Everything else is older than 2021.
You said only 3?
Yes.
Yeah, we've got some from 2010.
Okay.
So, and of those 10, only 1 of them is all-wheel drive, and then 2 of the older Jeeps that we have, those are 4-wheel drive. And those are like 2015, 2016.
Okay.
So nothing, only all-wheel drive car that we have is like the newest one. So you see the $30,000 is what we approved last year. The $35,000, I mean, I don't know where else, I don't know how we're gonna find, it's just $35,000 to hopefully try to secure an all-wheel drive vehicle.
Okay.
That's fine. Thank you very much.
Stay away from Chryslers as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Toyota.
Appreciate it.
How about the electoral board? Anybody
Oh, yeah,
here?
we need anybody from there, we do need to talk to them.
Page 20.
Is anybody here from electoral board?
She was told.
So there, last year, it was $47,000. This year, they're requesting $62,000. That's a $15,000 increase. And it's listed as 2 elections, minimum wage increase.
So the email I got from her also said that she was required to have 3 officials for early voting for 45 days for each of those elections. Is Keith in here?
So did the law change from last year? I mean, can you show that to us, where the law changed?
I did not see anything, and I've heard different things, so I don't.
Well, Stacy, when she was here last time and she was talking about the need for those machines, but that's not in
That's
this
not
budget.
electoral board. That's the registrar. The electoral board's budget is, they have a 3-member board, Wanda,
Right,
Brad,
right.
they manage that budget and manage the election officials right now. It would be beneficial to have it all under one person
Yeah.
at some point. I've heard differing opinions about how many election officials are needed for early voting.
Can we find out?
I can absolutely find that out.
Because the way it's worded, it's a $15,000 increase. The minimum wage increase was 41 cents, right? That's 36,585 hours. That's a lot of hours for.
I did sit down and talk to her and questioned her on it. She just didn't give it to me. So I will ask her what's required by law
So
and,
I'd star that one for sure.
okay.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find the registrars. Well, do you know what page the registrar's on? Because I'm having, huh?
Well, the electoral board's on 20.
Yeah, but they're,
They're in alphabetical order.
yeah, the alphabetical, so I'm
Okay.
in purchasing, but I can't find registrar.
Go about 6 more, I think. Her budget actually went down, I think.
I don't understand how that's possible, based upon the information she gave us.
She didn't put in for any of the, we didn't, those machines would take a special, like CIP or supplemental request.
Okay, Okay, okay.
Yeah, that was Electoral board. I'm making a note to get in touch with Ms. Bradley.
Thank you.
What's that?
Oh, the registrar's page 42.
What was it?
42.
So their budget stayed the same pretty much. Actually went down $1.
Yeah, I think that was rounding.
Yeah. Who else we need to talk to?
Madam Chair, can I just get some clarification while I came across it, because there was some pretty hefty numbers in here. I just wanted to understand. I'm not sure if Mr. Metter can answer this or where this comes, but if y'all go to page 35, this is under other public safety, and some of this is a question for Chief Beam as well.
Those are handled by us.
They're not handled by us?
They're handled by our office. Like, he doesn't see that other public safety.
No. Well, the forest fire tax, can you explain that to me?
Yeah, we pay a fee every year to the federal government for them maintaining fire service in the national forest.
What? Are you kidding me?
Are we required?
Yes, by law.
Even though we're doing most of it now?
Well, we're gonna have to, because we're not gonna have any brush trucks, but anyway.
Here we go. Moving on. The one that got my attention was the line 3091, the confined care of juveniles. Who is that under? Is that under DSS? Who is that under? What is it?
It's the detention home.
Okay, it's a
And
detention home.
we have had an increase in usage this past 12 months, so we increased our amount that we would probably have to pay. That is based on the judge, and
Okay, and I get that.
Yeah.
But I guess my question is again, it goes back from last meeting, not to beat this horse to death, but as of 12/31/2024, we'd only spent $43,000 out of 150.
that was only, that is not a full 6 months, because they haven't billed us for all of it at that point.
Okay.
It comes in much later. I probably will not get the final bill from them till, if I'm lucky, the end of July, mid-August, for the last of the year. I can let you know exactly how many months that is.
No.
Okay.
I just
thought
saw that was
I can look it up for you and
that was a
find out
pretty
what that
sharp
was.
increase, plus I just didn't know what it meant.
Yes,
So.
sir, you're right, it is. At one point in my tenure here, it was down to $75,000. Now we're back up to 200. It's hard to chase it sometimes. It goes up and comes back, so it goes up and down.
Ms. Bryant, do you remember maybe a month or so, maybe longer than that now, that I called you and had some questions about the Humane Society and the fact that they had bought the old veterinary clinic there in Monroe? They were able to do that. And what impact that would have on the animal shelter. And it's my recollection that it won't have any. Is that accurate?
That's what we learned, but I had a conversation about that. Yeah, I'm trying to recall that conversation. Would you like for me to look into that and get you an answer back?
Yeah, or you came back because I know they had a lease with the Humane Society has a lease with the animal shelter. And they were going to keep that whole. They weren't going to try to get out of that. They were going to keep that whole.
That is
Yeah.
my understanding. I think it was me, because I've talked to them a couple times about some different things recently, so that is what I was told.
Okay, all right.
Ms. Tucker, are you talking about the old Amherst equine, the horse facility right there?
No, it's across the road, that red building behind, what was it called, Manellis Veterinary Services?
Oh, yeah, behind the car lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Yeah, they bought that. Sheriff, is everything going smoothly there? You're not, no increases? You got plenty of money for the animal shelter and what you're doing? Good, okay.
Because I don't think we're really finding anything.
Mr. Pugh, you got anybody you want to talk to?
I think we've hit most of it. We've hit public safety, the sheriff's department. I don't have any questions.
Mr. Adams?
I don't know. On that transfer of debt service fund, is that $700,000? What's that debt service number gonna cover?
We're just putting it in a reserve to be used towards debt service in that whole thing that Davenport shows you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the $700,000 to go in. It'll sit in the reserve for a couple of years. We'll keep building it. And then we'll, use it as needed. But it's gonna help you later on down the road when we need to be able to buy down some time in other places as we have to incur other debt.
Okay. I'm gonna jump back for a question, because I haven't talked to these board members about it, but I asked you a question, I think, last week about, the money that we're investing now, that
Yes,
we're
sir.
gaining interest off of. Do we calculate that interest in our revenues, or we pretend like it's not there?
No, it's in there. We budgeted $850,000 this coming year. It's counted in your revenues. That is probably conservative, but we're just new to LGIP, so I wanted to give it a little bit of time to see what it was gonna be. But yes, it's always been counted in the revenue as it fluctuates.
All right, I'm having a senior moment. I remember that Ms. Mozingo, is she still here?
Yeah.
Okay. I had seen an email about an extra person in the circuit court, in the clerk's office.
Yes, ma'am. Thank y'all. I have requested one for the record room because I have tried to put it off, but I need help back there. These citizens, when I was elected, I promised to serve them to the best I could. It's getting so much for the counter people. We have people coming in that do title searches. Even the surveyors are sending people there to look up all the plats around them. My staff at the front counter, sometimes we have 3, sometimes if one's out or 2 out, we have 1. They have to cover the record room. And these people require a lot of time because there's people in wheelchairs, walkers, elderly people, people that don't know how to read. They want to get a copy of their deed, their marriage license. They want to research stuff. We have people coming in doing family history, people from other states. I don't have a person back there that can spend all day helping these people look up what they need. And I don't have the heart to tell people, there's the computer, there's the index, we're short-staffed. You can go back there and try and find your deed. And it's becoming more to where the girls, when they do wait the counter, they still have to go to their desk and process paperwork. And I'm having them say, I feel defeated. I did not get to finish my paperwork today. I know the budget's tight. I know everybody's trying to cut it. I understand that. And I appreciate that. I need some help. I really need another person. This is one of my girls that works the front. I brought her here to just let her tell you also, this is experience she shares. But when we go back to the back and we say, they'll say, I want to look up. She had one that had a long page of stuff.
Well, it's just, yeah, I mean, and like you guys said, we understand the budget is very, behind or low, whatever.
Here, stand in front of the microphone, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay, I can't hear, it's not you.
It's just, they're not being served as well as they could be. Gosh, now I feel like I'm really loud up in here. Oh, sorry. Mr. Adams, he came up, he graced us. She said, go back there, look up your deed. He couldn't do it. Well, yeah, did he find it?
He did.
No, I didn't find it. No, Ms. Mazingo is being kind. No, I didn't find it.
We, even marriage license back there for people for their real IDs, passports, things like that. We just can't get to them. They're not sometimes at the top of the list. They write in stuff. We have people for their genealogical research that they have to be certified and have to have these things. I mean, they'll have to come in and do it themselves. Yeah, I mean, we make do the best we can.
I don't have the heart to tell somebody. I mean, I work there, y'all know, all the time, but I'm not there. I'm always there during the day, but we just don't have enough people to be back there all day to pull 10 books for you or pull 15, and then there's 2 more standing there waiting. Plus, at the counter, we have civil, criminal, marriage license, concealed weapon permits, we have all that going in, and these girls, I have 3 girls at the counter. Most of the time, I have 2. And then we have to go back to the back. So going back to help somebody look up something is not 2 minutes. It could be hours.
Right, now I understand all that, and I know that a lot of attorneys use your office for different things. And so not understanding your business and knowing it like you do, you know, I called up a few attorneys. I said, hey, what's your experience in the Amherst County Clerk? And they said, oh my gosh, they're so nice. You know, so that's good, that's good. But they were telling me that a lot of the localities around here now are using an online thing to file deeds. Do we do that? We don't do that, do we?
We have online access for the attorneys to be able to search from.
But can you file a deed online?
No, that's e-filing, and that's not anything having to do with the record room. That is just the attorneys sitting in their office, and they will email the documents to us that morning. And then that would increase more time for my staff to sit there all morning and not be able to help.
So you're saying that there's no technology avenue that will help you?
No, I
Okay.
wished it was.
Also, what is available online is only from certain dates. So a lot of the times, the older stuff, which is where we get our elderly people that are coming in and are totally lost. I mean, they can't even make copies, you know, which, I mean, I myself am not elderly, close to it, but I can barely, you know, when you get a new machine in and all the, you know, those things. There was something
And the
else.
remote access is
gonna
for
tell you.
attorneys to send in their deeds and documents.
Okay, all right. Y'all got any questions for Ms. Mozingo?
I do for Ms. McBride and Mr. Bryant on that. So if you go to page 8, which is Clerk of Circuit Court, all right? Salaries and wages, the original budget was $539,325. Their request was $539,325. County admin recommends $530,550. So that's less
I know what
than,
it is.
It's
I
in
know what it is.
supplemental.
No, it's not.
and it says new record room position, $40,000 not included in number.
So she asked for, when we were doing the cuts, we made it a swap. She cannot seem to hire someone part-time for back there, so she gave up the part-time money in order to keep her recording services at the 36.5.
And the recording services, the Supreme Court does reimburse us for the Supreme Court stuff. But for 8 years, I have not had a part-time person back there, so that part-time money has just gone into, what, the $950 a year has gone back into revenue? When
Well-
it's,
Yeah, it's just rolled back to the
yeah,
general fund.
when
is
it's
what
not
spent.
used.
My point is, the $40,000 for that position is not in the 222.
It's in the supplemental budget for the full-time position.
It's a request.
It's a request
It's a
on the supplemental
request.
budget.
Well, that's what I just said, it was in the supplemental.
It's a request. It's not recommended for funding at the moment.
I'm telling you, I've told you this, if it's not in this budget, with the exception of those SROs, because they might be grant funded, I'm not voting for it. Because you're making us, you're getting us to next year, right, with one-time money, and then we gotta figure out how to budget for it, so.
With all due respect, if you chose to take a full-time position out of the supplemental, we would then build it into the O&M.
Then,
We are not proposing to use one-time money for a long-time position.
then why wouldn't you just show it in the budget now?
Because we're in the budget process right now. We're giving you the operating budget, and then you're gonna get the
CIP and supplemental to review at the next meeting, which is what y'all asked us to do last year.
Okay, I'm very confused
And your
because,
your budget policy states that no positions can be added by staff. They have to be approved by the board when asked for.
We have not, we will not propose using one-time money for full-time positions.
okay, if we're $222,000 short right now,
Correct.
right?
Right.
Okay, so we don't have a balanced budget,
Correct.
right? And that's not adding any positions,
Yes, sir.
all right? Then if we go into, let's just take her position, $40,000, then we're $266,000 short.
Yes, sir.
It takes 60,000 for that position.
All right, it's 282,000.
I'm just saying, that doesn't count benefits. What she was asking for didn't include all the money.
I
We
mean,
would have to find recurring revenue for anything on that that bottom part of the supplemental requires recurring revenue. The top part of the supplemental requires one-time money.
At this time, I'm not recommending it be funded for new positions.
I mean, we don't have the money for it.
That's correct.
Correct.
But I think for Mr. Martin, I'm not trying to speak for you, but as I go through these pages, it's one that, damn it, I done lost that again. But, so in one of these budgets, it shows from new positions from last year. It was like $1.1 million.
That was my mistake. That's what I was telling you. I pulled, those are actually in the public safety budget. I should have taken that out. That's why the original budget was off. But those are now showing under public safety. They don't exist in the 2026 budget.
So, other than SROs, I understand that, and other than this position, was there any other headcount positions that were in this that somehow I might have forgot about or overlooked?
There was a bunch.
We did not forget this position. It's in the supplemental. That's why I didn't.
I understand the
include
supplemental, but I'm talking about the budget that's the operating budget, other than this one, because this one got in here.
No, it's not.
No, it's not in there.
it. No, it's
in
not.
there.
Am I-
It's just her note, and I put a note that said it is not included.
You're right, you're right, you're right.
Well,
Okay.
If I could make a suggestion, we've been doing this supplemental process before I started. I see the problem with it. I understand, Mr. Martin, your concern, and how I think we need to fix it. I've actually made a note on how we can do this next year better. We need to not include in the discussion the supplemental. We just need to have a CIP and get rid of this old process that the county's been using for the last 7 to 8 years of CIP and supplemental and rolling in supplemental positions. I understand your concern 100%. It's a valid concern. We don't have any positions built in this yet. You're right, but we're not proposing to include any new positions because this budget year's so tight.
You don't have any
Mr.
more
Pugh,
questions for?
I do. So, you answered this, but when will we know about the SRO grant?
They said when I asked them earlier, May or June.
That's a little late, isn't
Right.
it?
This is the problem we had last year.
Which I think that's why Mr. Pugh suggested what he did.
Do you have any more questions for the clerk of court?
I don't.
Yep.
Thank you
Thank
all,
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Mazingo.
So, board, I'd just throw this out for consideration. Just a starting point. So we got $222,000, right? You take the $118,000 from the ESC, which I really don't like doing, right? That leaves you $104, all right? Take 10% pass to the employees at $72,500, that leaves you $32,500, right? Am I close?
31, 537.
31. I know sheriff don't like it. But you go back to the way that was and funding it from fines and forfeitures, your budget's balanced.
I might have a couple other options for that.
That's great. Now, that being said, all that being said, what I would really like to have happen is that we find that other $35,000 where we're not passing the full 10% on to the employees.
You prefer us to do it 5%?
I prefer you to do none, but I'm not sure how we're gonna do it without.
Well, this is one item right here, Mr. Martin,
So
I
that
want
would-
clarification on. So that debt service money, that $700,000 I just asked about, in the detailed explanation, the transfers here under line 16, the debt service contribution is $662,000.
No, we reduced the transfer to the solid waste was reduced. So the net of all the transfers is 692 increase,
662.
or 662, yeah.
So this is to the landfill.
There's 4 transfers in there. There's the landfill transfer, there's the transfers to the schools for their operating, there's the transfer for the construction that we gave, it goes to their construction fund, 55,246.
Okay.
So there's 4 transfers in there total. That's the net difference, is the increase of 662. We did have a reduction in the solid waste transfer because of the fee structure change. So he has more revenue coming in to cover his expenses.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Solid waste fund.
Regarding the 20% fine revenue to Parks and Rec, how does that go about funding their budget? I'm not familiar exactly what that 20% does.
We use it for one-time projects like the
improvement.
cool well lights.
Okay.
We just put it in the reserve every year, at the end of it's calculated at the end of the year, and we set it aside at the end of that year into a reserve that can be drawn on when you all need it for something.
Well, that's another pot that you could look at as well. I know that Mr. Martin probably doesn't want to get into that one.
Well, I think we gotta be cautious with that because I
I
think
don't want to get
Sheriff.
into that one either.
Sheriff can speak to this. I mean, he had 2 traffic guys. Sheriff, please correct me if I'm wrong. When he and I talked yesterday, he had 2 traffic positions that were contributing a significant amount to those funds, correct? And you have now transferred one of those into in a normal shift operations, which has diminished your traffic personnel. So that's gonna directly affect the amount of fine revenue. So I don't think, we don't need to count those chickens before they hatch, is basically what I'm saying.
I don't disagree. It's just,
So, I know what you're saying, but it's so many factors that could play into him. If he has 2 officers leave, obviously, he's gonna pull them, and please, Sheriff, I'm not speaking for you, but I feel like you would pull them from traffic to support normal 911 calls before we worry about traffic. Right.
And I saw that when that division, the 80/20, when it, our part of it went down really, really low. Really low. You remember that, David? So, yeah, I'm with you. We can't, I don't want to bank on that. And this 80/20 deal that we've got's been working well.
Madam Chairman, may I say something? Yeah. Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Hey.
A couple things. Thanks for all the discussion. I mean, certainly what staff is looking for is trying to understand where your tolerances are. We think, we being Ms. McBride, and I think we can bring back to you next meeting some proposals with some ideas. If you're willing for us to consider moving from Anthem to TLC, we can put a budget together that we believe balances with both either a 10% or a 5%, as long as that 118,000 from the ESC is considered. It sounds like I heard that you may consider it. If you would consider us using it for this year, this 1 year, with the idea that we try to put it back in the next year, we think we can build a budget that is gets us to even with both a 5 and a 10% using different funds, and we can bring that back to you next meeting. Both those options.
Can you get to a no %?
I can try.
We will try.
That's awesome.
Now, we might make
I'll always try.
We might make some departments not happy with us, but we can try. can bring back options to you.
Well, okay. Solid waste expenditures,
Where you at, Mr. Moore?
page 55.
He was here earlier, but I think
He's still here.
Oh.
He's still here.
Let's see, repair maintenance, 18,000 up to 30, that's $12,000. Repair for trucks, 35 up to 75,000, so that's $40,000. And
And
then
which department are you looking at, sir?
I think he's in
solid
like
waste
convenience centers.
expenditures.
Well, there's he has 5 departments within solid waste. I believe he's in,
Page
convenience centers.
55.
It's Fund 85, Brian.
Thank you. Do you have a question, sir? I'm sorry.
I'm throwing it out there, 35,000 for repair of trucks, up to 75,000. Looks like you spent 58,660 so far.
Yes, sir. So we're on budget to spend over $100,000 already this year, for this fiscal year. The 3 trucks, we do not have slated for replacement. They're not on the CIP, and therefore, we're putting about 40,000 miles per year on each vehicle. As the trucks get more wear and tear, they cost more. The inflation factor has gone up over 7% since the last budget. If you look at the consumer pricing index, all of our repair shops have gone up, all of the costs have gone up.
No one else got any thoughts on that? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the volunteer rescue
Thank you.
services, there's nothing in there now?
What page is that, Mr. Martin?
To,
The fuel and the, some
no, I'm
other,
just talking about the contributions and all that. So did that go into the chief's budget?
yes, sir.
Let me explain that to me,
It went
please.
into, we
There
set
was-
2 different ones, I think.
There were 2 rescue squads that we had funding set aside for their operations. Well, they no longer exist. So that money,
Yes, so that got divided. So, part of it went to, we didn't use all of it, but, we increased one line a little bit to pay utilities at the Manelican Rescue Building. And then last year, we took part of that, for the Amherst Life Saving Crew building to cover the cost there. And then, to Mr. McBride's point, we had so many different budgets under public safety. We tried to eliminate the rescue squad budget because we didn't see a need for it. So we shifted like our fuel, all the fuel for ambulances were coming out of that budget line or that budget title. So we shifted all those to other budgets to close that line out.
thank you, sir. I guess my parting, I would really like to not pass any costs on to the employees.
Are we back to insurance now?
Yeah. That's, I mean, I'd really like not to do that. You have to, you have to.
Yes, sir.
I want y'all to, all y'all looking at me like I'm a, well, that's what I am, but I hope you understand where we're at, all right?
I understand the direction.
I'm looking at them, I'm not looking.
Yeah, but she said she would try.
Okay, that's all we
Yeah.
can do. Yep, thank you.
I think, Mr. Martin, I'm gonna have to agree with you there. I would love to be able to not place any additional burdens on our employees. I think Ms. McBride and Mr. Bryant have gone back to our staff. I'm not sure how many times we're at now. I'm not sure what version of the budget we're in, probably 7.3, right? They've cut.
I know.
They have cut and cut and cut, and I feel like we're kind of at where we're at. We may have to make some tough decisions that I'm gonna be honest with you, that I don't want to make, and I think we need to be thinking about it, whether we need to potentially pull it out of our reserves to balance it, and I cannot believe I'm even saying that.
I think that's legal.
It's not recommended.
Well, I know it's not recommended, but or some other place. I'm just,
Well, I see, I mean, kind of the things we could do is, I mean, we could pull like the vehicles out of the operating budget and pay for it out of reserves, right? Because that's not
true.
really an operating.
That is true. That would be one way of being creative with it. Ms. McBride, how close are we with the financial stuff to be able to see how we're trending for the current fiscal year?
I have it up through January. I'm waiting on stuff to be posted for February to be able to transfer it over to the new system.
Okay. Do you have a projection on that, just to where we kind of have an idea?
I do not, but I can have one by the next meeting.
Okay.
Board members, anything else? Martin, you look like you're in pain.
While he's pondering his thoughts, on the revenue side, while Ms. Irby is here. Jane, don't bob and weave back there ducking and trying to hide. All right, so when we're talking about revenues for personal property, machine and tools, real estate, I don't really see any increases right now. And she explained to me, because I asked about personal property, I think it's to say, we didn't propose an increase for personal property and machine and tools, correct? Until we can get those numbers in. Am I correct with that? Okay,
We can make an adjustment if it's more
right.
or less.
But I think it's smart, I think this is for conversation, I think it's smart doing it the way where we're not counting on money that we don't know about.
Yes, sir.
I think it's a safe, after talking to Ms. Irby and you guys, I think it's a pretty safe assumption that we're gonna see. Ms. Irby, what did you tell, 2%, 3%, potentially? 2% for personal property? Okay.
Mr. Adams, I was gonna ask that same thing. So, but it looked like on the revenues, and I closed it, that we're projecting less than we did last year. Is there a reason for that?
Because the reserves for the capital are included in last year's. The one-time money is included in last year's. It is not in this
And
year's.
personal property?
No, he's talking about that line item.
Oh, that particular line item. I apologize.
Did I remember that correctly?
You did. So last year, the adopted FY '25 for personal property taxes was 11,405.
Yes, you're correct.
And this year, we're at 10,876. 10,876,000.
So why is it less?
PPTRA and bringing it back down to where the values are. The values are starting to level out a little bit now. They're not, and being conservative, I'd rather it come in more than less.
Gotcha.
I usually use a 98% collection rate too, so whatever number we have, I bring it down by 2% so that we never collect it all until later, so it's safer that way.
And the real estate assessment increases we saw were primarily because of the construction in Madison Heights?
About half of it, yeah. We actually had Ms. Irby and Community Development pulled building permits so we could verify how much construction had been done to get to that number.
Quite a bit.
Yes, sir, it was. About 40 million, I think.
Anything else? No. Does staff have anything else for us?
No, I just wanted to tell you, thank you for giving us your feedback. We're going to bring back, just to summarize, we're going to bring back at our next meeting those three options, using the new health insurance with zero cost to employees, 5% increase, and a 10%. We'll try to get creative with some options for you to look at. At that March 18th meeting, Dr. Wells will also be here to present the school's request to us, which, as you can tell, we have a tight budget that year. Additionally, we will also look at the CIP and supplemental request. And I'm going to propose a new process to you. I've brought it up at the last meeting, this meeting. I'll propose a new process on how I suggest we do that.
Well, on behalf of the board, I want to thank staff and everybody here, all the department heads, for everything that you all have done to get us to this point. I know it wasn't easy, and watching the sausage being made is always difficult, but thank you for your patience. Thank you for your creativity, and you're very much appreciated. Board members.
You still love me, Jeremy?
I do love you still.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Martin. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. We are adjourned.